Breaking news shook the world as we learned about the untimely death of Friends actor Matthew Perry. The beloved Chandler Bing, known for his witty one-liners, faced his own battles behind the scenes. But what led to this tragic end for the man who brought laughter into our lives? What really happened to Matthew Perry? You know, before Matthew Perry became the Chandler Bing we all love, he had a dream. From a young age, he wanted to be an actor. Just like when you dream of being a doctor or a firefighter, Matthew's dream was to act on TV and in movies. He had that passion from his teenage years. So to chase his dream, Matthew packed his bags and headed to Los Angeles. After all, that's where all the big movie and TV stuff happens. But it's not like he just got famous right away. Oh no, he had to work for it. He knew he had to learn the ropes, so he enrolled in improv classes. Improv is like acting without a script. You've got to be quick on your feet, you have to be funny, and you need to be creative. Matthew was there, learning how to be a better actor step by step. Now you probably already know this part. The big break came when he got the role of Chandler on Friends. You know, that sarcastic and hilarious guy with a lot of one-liners. Matthew was perfect for the role and people loved him for it. Friends was a mega-hit TV show that everybody watched. It was on for 10 whole seasons from 1994 to 2004. That means that Matthew played the role of Chandler from age 24 to 34. He was one of the 6 friends that we all got attached to. And here's where it gets really interesting. Friends didn't just make Matthew famous, it made him super rich too. In the beginning, they got paid $22,000 for each episode, which is already a lot of money for TV. But as the show became a bigger hit, their paychecks got even crazier. By the end, he was making $1 million for each episode. However, even with all of this money, his life wasn't as easy as we saw it. It all started with a jet ski accident back in 1997. He had this accident and it left him in pain, you know, hurting a lot. And what do you do when you're in pain? You go to the doctor, right? Well, the doc gave him a prescription for the painkiller Vicodin to help him deal with the pain. Now, here's where the trouble begins. Vicodin can make you feel pretty good, and Matthew found himself liking that feeling just a bit too much. It's like when you try a really delicious candy and you just can't stop eating it. But this candy wasn't sweet, it was trouble. Matthew couldn't stop taking Vicodin, and it mixed up with alcohol too. It's a lot like mixing oil and water. It does not go well. This combo was tough on him. He realized he needed help because he was stuck in a bad cycle, so he took a brave step and went to rehab for the first time in 1997. After that first stint in rehab, Matthew Perry wasn't giving up without a fight. He worked really hard to stay away from drugs and booze. You know, it's like when you're trying to quit eating junk food, but you keep looking at that bag of chips. It's not easy. His body had been through a lot, and it showed. Alcohol and drugs take a toll on your health, and Matthew felt it. He had ups and downs with his weight, and people noticed. It's like a roller coaster ride, but not the fun kind. Imagine working on a TV show like Friends, where millions of people are watching you and you're trying to stay sober. That's a pretty tough balancing act. But Matthew did his best to not let his struggles affect his work. It's like going to your job even when you're not feeling great. But you know what? The battle to stay sober was always there, like a shadow. It's not something that just goes away. So around the year 2001, things took a really tough turn for Matthew Perry. It was like his darkest period. Imagine trying to balance a super demanding job like being on Friends with your own personal struggles. It's a lot like juggling hot potatoes. Really hard. He wasn't only working on Friends, but he also was filming in a movie called Serving Sarah. So you can only begin to imagine the kind of pressure that he was under. He was probably feeling like he was running on empty, like a car low on gas. During this time, he was dealing with a lot of issues, and it was too tough for him to reach out for help. He kind of isolated himself, which means he kept to himself and didn't really let others in. It's like when you have a problem, but you don't really want to burden your friends or family with it, so you keep it all bottled up inside. Matthew was in a pretty tough spot, and it was really hard for him to ask for help when he was feeling that way. Matthew Perry's journey had its ups and downs, and in 2011, he faced another tough challenge when he had to go to rehab for the third time. It's like going back to school to learn something important, but in his case, he was learning how to stay sober and overcome his addiction once again. Later on, in 2015, Matthew had to close his sober living facility, the Perry House. It's a bit like when you've got a clubhouse for you and your friends, but you've got to close it for some reason. It must have been a tough decision, but sometimes life throws curveballs, and you got to adjust. Despite his own struggles, Matthew didn't want to keep quiet about the battle with alcoholism. He used his own experiences to raise awareness about it being a disease. It's kind of like being a superhero who's been through tough battles and you want to help others fight their own demons. But then came the Friends reunion. The Friends reunion was a big deal for everyone who loved the show. People were excited to see the gang back together, but there were also some concerns, especially when it came to Matthew Perry. You see, when the trailer for the reunion came out, some folks noticed that Matthew seemed a bit different. It's like when you meet an old friend after a long time and they've changed a lot. You can't help but notice. In the trailer, some said he didn't seem as engaged or as sharp as he used to be. But here's the thing, we should remember that people change as they get older. Plus, Matthew had been through a lot in his life. He had health issues, battles with addiction, and a whole load of stress being in the spotlight for so long. It's like if you'd been through a tough journey, you might not be the same person you were before you started. Matthew Perry's death was a real shocker. He was found unresponsive in a hot tub at his home in Los Angeles on October 28th. It's like when you hear news about someone you know and you just can't believe it. The autopsy report gave us some details about what happened. It mentioned that Matthew had ketamine in his system, and that was related to his passing. Ketamine's a drug often used for medical purposes, but it can also be misused and abused too. In Matthew's case, he was using ketamine infusion therapy to help him with his depression. But the report also listed other factors like drowning, coronary artery disease, and buprenorphine effects. Now this raised some serious concerns about the safety of ketamine therapy. People were wondering if it was really truly safe. But experts say that the therapy is considered safe when it's done under the guidance of a medical professional. So that was the story of Matthew Perry's tragic end. So what are your thoughts on his passing? Please let us know in the comment section down below. And if you enjoyed today's video, then don't be afraid to give us a like and subscribe to our channel and click on that notification bell so you're always updated as soon as we release new content. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you in our next video.